Hey, I'm Moose, and today I wanted to give my wish list for Age of Mythology Retold. I'm a long-term player of Age of Mythology. I've played for the last 20 years, basically, on and off, sometimes a lot, sometimes not so much. I used to play LAN games with my family. We used to play the old ESO Ensemble Studios online, do the custom maps with some of my friends, and also play the competitive side, not to a very strong level, but decent. So yeah, I want to give my opinion of what should be in the Age of Mythology remake, and yeah, let's get straight into it. So I've split this up into 3 parts. The first part I'm going to call the must-haves, basically something that the game must have in order for it to function better than the previous versions. The first must-have is improved pathfinding. The pathfinding in Age of Mythology is atrocious. It's something that really frustrates me. The units just aren't very smart, so if there's a goat in the way, your Elfsark will get stuck behind it forever rather than just knowing to walk around it because it's much faster. One of the biggest units in the entire game, the Titan, will not be able to walk because there is a villager standing there, and this can be abused quite heavily. Not sure if it's just me or not, but I've noticed that the Atlantean units have much better pathfinding than some of the older civilizations, especially Aranos, Terma and Mamillo seem to get out of tricky situations a lot better than some of the Greek units, for example. One more for the pathfinding is trade caravans and villages. So if you set up a lot of trade, they often get stuck on trees and things, and it can just be very frustrating. The same as villagers get stuck. So if you're chopping down wood and then one of your villagers just happens to be chopping wood in the way of another one, it will just get stuck and stay there, and you won't get the idle military banner. My second point for the must-haves is to fix some annoying bugs that have been in the game. So these are on the original game, the Voobly game, and Extended Edition. The first one is fast units like centaurs getting stuck in buildings. So this happens with, it definitely happens with centaurs, and it happens with the Chimera too. Kind of slides the unit around, and sometimes they can actually get stuck in buildings and they will just die. This is very frustrating, especially with something like centaurs where you need to keep them alive and you could just throw away some for free. So next up, we have removing the Extended Edition only units. The reason for this is the original game was balanced in a set way, where each civilization has its clear strengths and clear weaknesses, and these additional units have basically removed the weaknesses from each of the civilizations. For example, Greek gains a healer, and their units are already extremely strong and expensive, so giving them a healer is just giving them extra resources and way more value. Egyptian is meant to be this mid-game powerhouse with strong timings, but they've been given Kopesh, which buffs their early raiding to give them an advantage before they even have a chance to do their timing attack. The worst one, Norse, have been given an archer, which makes them extremely strong. One weakness of Norse is that they use full hack damage abilities, and it was put there for a reason. Atlantean were given a ranged siege unit. Obviously it's not very good, but they already have the destroyers and fire siphons, so they really didn't need it. The next few are just modernising the game, fixing the lag. I think this should happen anyway, but how it works with the original game and Extended Edition is if one person lags, everyone lags, and it's just something with old games. I'd much prefer it on a more modern server where it's, if you're lagging, it's just yourself that's lagging and everyone else gets to experience clean gameplay. I would like ongoing support for major bugs or issues or glitches. There was a time when Extended Edition had the Poseidon lure glitch, where you could put your lure down in your opponent's base and get some pretty crazy effects. The last one for the must-haves is a better pause mechanic. How the pause mechanic works isn't functional for a modern game. You can only set the minimum pauses to 5 and they just last indefinitely. You can have a pause on forever, and possibly the worst part of it is somebody can pause, and then just by hitting your own pause button you can unpause the game, and then if they've gone to answer the door or something, you have a massive advantage. It's just ridiculous. It needs to have some kind of time limit on it like it does on other games. Also set a team amount. So say you could have 1 per team or 2 per team, for example, with a set amount of time, say 30 seconds per pause. Obviously, if you wanted to do your own custom game, you could just pause it indefinitely, like you can now. So part 2 is UI and quality of life. So the UI and quality of life is just something where it would just make the game a bit cleaner and nicer to use. My first one is the chat function. So currently I find it very hard to actually understand who you're talking to. It doesn't make it immediately obvious. You can press allies only or enemies only or everyone, and then they have X's next to their name, but then if you hit enter and type, don't know who you've said what to. So I've been in games before where somebody's obviously been on select all and they're talking to me even though they're on the enemy team, and you know, that's just a big disadvantage. It would be nice if all of these options were in different colours. So say a game like Overwatch where you can press tab and filter between match, team, type/W and whisper to somebody, type/R to respond to somebody. Basic modern game. Next is the base UI. So on the original game, I don't have that installed, but without the mod, it basically says things like the raiding cavalry are only good against archers. And that's something when I first started playing, I was young, but when I first started playing, really confused me because they're these big units with a lot of armor, a lot of health, and it says they're only good against archers, when instead it should say what the bonus they get. So I have a tooltip on which tells me exactly what everything does. You can hover over your god powers and it tells you, for example, lure, exactly how much food it brings in, rather than just having a vague answer of what these units and god powers actually do. And finally we have game balance. So I would like there to be somewhat regular patches for game balance, something similar to how MOBAs work. I personally played a lot of Smite, and I like how their god balance works. You would basically have a character that's strong for a set period of time, that's top of the meta. They know it's powerful, but they let it get played for a couple of months, or unless it's ridiculously strong, or a few weeks. Then they would nerf it, and then it lets something else through. So they would either buff the weak ones and nerf the strong ones, or just nerf the strong ones and hope something else comes through. And I'd like something similar for Age of Mythology. I think it's in a state now, at least on Extended Edition, where everything is viable, but it's also, there isn't clear lines between them. But I would like it to be better than it was originally, where it was Zeus, Isis, Set and Uranus were just the strongest by far. Obviously that needs to not be a thing where the same gods are always the strongest. And that's basically my thoughts. And this might have sounded quite negative, but actually I'm really looking forward to Retold. I just want it to be the best that it could possibly be. I still play the original game now, even though it has all these issues, so it isn't like I wouldn't play it, but it's just something that I would really like to see, and I think it would keep more players around for longer. So let me know if you have any comments about what you think should be in Retold, and yeah, see you in the next one.